Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchit Sukha Sarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. I bow down to Swami Vivekananda, who is the king among the sannyasins, a hero among human beings, who was the embodiment of existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, and the saviors of humanity. We bow down to Swami Vivekananda. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Today is 4th of July, American Independence Day. We are observing Swami Vivekananda Festival. We started this festival in 1980, and last 40 years we are continuing to observe this auspicious festival in connection with Swami Vivekananda. Our main intention was to encourage our young members and devotees to study more about Swamiji's message and life. And over these years, they participated. They spoke what Vivekananda means to me, what Vedanta means to me, 4 yogas, and various aspects of Swamiji. But this year, due to this corona pandemic, we changed the format. We cannot invite our members and young people to participate. So we have a different program which George Albertus will explain to you. I shall briefly introduce this program. Swami Vivekananda was born in 1863, passed away in 1902. He lived in this world 39 years, 5 months, 24 days. He said, I shall never see 40. But he says, I have given enough for 1500 years to the thinking humanity. We sometimes marvel observing Swamiji's contribution to the world. His guru said that when he would know about his true nature, he would give up his body. He attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi at Kashipur Garden House. And then Sri Ramakrishna says, now you got the taste of that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and I shall now lock it. When you finish mother's work, you will get it back. He also further said, when he would know his true nature, he will give up his body. Swamiji came to America. He told in Brooklyn Ethical Association, I have a message to the world, as Buddha has a message to the East. What was that message? Vedanta. Some people ask why Swamiji emphasized so much about Vedanta. First, people lost their self-confidence. Swamiji's Vedantic message brought back that self-confidence to human beings. Second, there are many kinds of superstitions entered religion, and religion became very confusing to the people. So he cleared up those confusions and misunderstandings and various kinds of occult businesses. If you read Swamiji's 4 yogas, you will understand what is true religion. He redefined religion in the present world. Religion is realization. Religion is a manifestation of divinity already in human beings. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature, external or internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control, by one or more or all of this, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Swamiji further said, the old religion said he was an atheist who did not believe in God. But the new religion says he is an atheist who does not believe in himself. Anyhow, Swamiji redefined religion in many ways. Religion is being and becoming. Religion is a manifestation of perfection. Third, that old religion and the present age are not compatible. Swamiji kept the truth, that essence of religion, and presented to the modern world, modern people, so that they can practice. That is the reason he emphasized Vedanta. It needs a Catholic view. Swami Vivekananda gave the best part of his life to the Western world, 5 years. He says, I love the Yankees. I shall tell you a few incidents about Swamiji, how the American people loved him. Before the Parliament of Religions, Swamiji was in Boston. Professor Henry Wright, the Greek professor of Harvard University, wrote about him. Here is a man who is more learned than all of our learned professors put together. As you know, he came as a representative of the Parliament of Religions without credential. Anyhow, by God's grace, he got a chance to speak. I recently got a letter of Mrs. S.K. Blodgett, who was the host of Swamiji in Los Angeles in 1900. In that letter, she wrote about Swamiji. Some part has been published in the Reminiscences of Vivekananda. He said, after that lecture of Swamiji, I saw a score of women rushing toward the podium to shake hands with him. And I said to myself, well, my lad, if you can resist that onslaught, you are indeed a god. And Swamiji was God. I remember in 1900 in San Francisco, Swamiji told the audience, if you live long, you will see that after 10 years after my death, I will be worshipped as God. And it was true. Swamiji is now worshipped, adored by millions and millions of people. Mr. Francis Leggett was a very rich man, met Swamiji in 1895. He used to give $10,000 to the Christian missionaries every year. But after he met Swamiji, he stopped paying any money to the missionaries. He said, Swamiji is the greatest man I ever saw. Somebody asked why? Because he has more common sense. Mrs. Leggett also made a remark. I met two real men in my life. One is the German Emperor Kaiser, another was Swami Vivekananda. If you read Swamiji's reminiscences, you will find almost everybody acknowledges Swamiji's lies. Shanmohini Chakku, fascinating eyes. Padma Palasa Lochana, lotus eye. When Swamiji would sleep, his eyelids could not close his eyes, very protruding eyes. Amazing. One day Swamiji was returning to his room after his bath in Balaram's house. A young man says, Swamiji, your muscles, your calf muscles looks very beautiful, wonderful. Swamiji smiled and said, just made a simple remark, but which is very interesting. Thakur amake dekhte bhalobashteন. The master was very fond of seeing me. That Swamiji said. I remember when I was in Hollywood, a young girl told me, Swami, I love Swamiji more than Sri Ramakrishna. I asked why? Because Swamiji was handsome. That is American girl, you see. I said, oh, no. Sri Ramakrishna was very handsome. If you see his face was about to crack out of joy. Perhaps you have seen pomegranate. When they ripe, they crack. In our part of the country, we have some kind of melon. When they are ripened, they crack. So Thakur could not hold so much bliss inside. I meditate on Thakur's that joyful face in Samadhi. Thakur was also very beautiful. I met another young old man in 1963. I was in charge of in Calcutta. I was in charge of the photo department, and at that time we had 75 photographs of Vivekananda. Now we have 95. So this man bought 75 pictures of Swamiji framed and put around the wall of his room. He said, I am an old man, I cannot sit for meditation, so I stand in front of each picture of Swamiji 1 minute, and I see, I think of him. Thus, I get 75 minutes meditation. A great devotee of Swamiji. Swami Turiyananda said, previously I would think that Swamiji was a great intellectual, but after I went to America, I realized Swamiji was a prophet. He told Swami Nirvedananda, you came late. If you would come a few years ago, you could see Swamiji. Swamiji was a perfect man. He was perfect in every respect. In singing, in oratory, in every respect, Swamiji was perfect. That is the reason Sri Ramakrishna said, Keshav Chandra Sen is famous within 1 or 2 qualities. Narendra has 18 such qualities. Think of that. Swamiji selected 4th of July, American Independence Day, for departing from this world. Even in the almanac he consulted, they saw the page mark there. In Kashmir, on the 4th of July in 1898, Swamiji wrote a poem to the 4th of July. I shall not go in details about the last day of Swamiji. But one incident really impresses me so much. Swamiji came back from his walk in the afternoon. He was going to his room. Swami Bodhananda was with him. He was going upstairs over the steps. On the second step, he stood and said, how much money do I have in my wallet? Swamiji, 4 or 5 rupees. Buy a mosquito curtain of that monk. I went to his room, I found his mosquito curtain is torn. He would be bitten by mosquito and you will get malaria. Please remember, this man is going to die within 2 hours. He was thinking of a mosquito curtain of a monk. He was a lover of human beings. Ami manush bhalobashi. That is something wonderful about Swamiji. He got the boon from Lord Shiva, Amarnath, that when he wanted to die, he would die. Ujjwanath Swamiji passed away on the 4th of July, 9:10 p.m. in his room. He gave up his body through meditation. He told his attendant, wait and meditate till I call you. That was the last message we hear from Swamiji's lips. We do not see Swami Vivekananda's physical form, but his spirit is working among the millions of people all over the world. He says, I am a voice without a form. I think it was in London, in Piccadilly Hall, Swamiji gave a farewell speech there. It may be that I shall find it good to get outside of my body, to cast it off like a disused garment. But I shall not cease to work. I shall inspire men everywhere until the world shall know that it is one with God. Thank you.
There are a multitude of factors in the world today that could lead one to a pessimistic view of life. The number of COVID deaths and illnesses, historic unemployment and economic downturn, the failure of governments to protect their citizens on many levels, the failure of some of us to act responsibly toward others. But Vivekananda says, as spiritual seekers, our attitude should be other than pessimistic. Quote, both pessimism and optimism are wrong. Both are taking up the extremes. So long as man has plenty to eat and drink and good clothes to wear, he becomes a great optimist. But that very man, when he loses everything, becomes a great pessimist. When a person loses all his money and is very poor, then and then alone, with the greatest force come to him the ideas of brotherhood, of humanity. This is the world, and the older I get, the more I go to different countries and see of this world, the more I am trying to avoid both these extremes of optimism and pessimism. The world is neither good nor evil. It is the Lord's world. It is beyond both good and evil, perfect in itself. His will is going on, showing all these different pictures, and it will go on without beginning and without end. It is a great gymnasium in which you and I and millions of souls must come and get exercises and make ourselves strong and perfect. That is what it is for." End quote. Strength and self-effort are hallmarks of Vivekananda's message of Vedantic, not worldly, optimism. He writes, quote, "This life is a hard fact. Work your way through it boldly, though it may be adamantine. No matter, the soul is stronger. Stand up, be bold, be strong. Take the whole responsibility on your shoulders and know that you are the creator of your own destiny. All the strength and succor you want is within yourselves. Therefore, make your own future, end quote. As we watch the videos and see and hear about Swamiji, may we all be reminded of his inspiring words for our spiritual success and well-being. In May of last year, we participated in an observance of the 125th anniversary of Vivekananda's address at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. This program was jointly organized by the Vedanta Society of St. Louis, the India Association of St. Louis, and the Hindu Temple and Mahatma Gandhi Cultural Center. Fortunately, the entire program was recorded. So today, we're going to present you some highlights of that observance. Each segment of the video will be titled, but I'll run through what you can expect to see and hear. We will begin with Sri Lalita Popuri singing the catchy Sada Vivekananda Mayam, also known as Bhuvana Mandale, which was the theme song for Vivekananda's 150th birth anniversary. Next is a pictorial tribute to Vivekananda from the Vedanta Society of North Texas, which includes significant dates in Swamiji's life. Abhimanyu Gupta and Partha Karmakar then perform a song which Vivekananda sang for Ramakrishna, as well as a song written by Swamiji himself. Next is a thought-provoking talk by the engaging Swami Sarvapriyananda of New York on Vivekananda's addresses at the Parliament of Religions. Paul Goldowitz, a Portland, Oregon devotee, composed a song based on Swamiji's poem, The Song of the Sannyasin. When he heard about this festival, he graciously offered to create a video for it. So today, we will see the world premiere of Paul's song video, Sannyasin Bold. And we will end with two fine bhajans by the talented Pandurangi family. We are glad you are watching. I will return at the end to close things out.
The next composition is a famous Sanskrit song composed by Sridhar Bhaskar Varnekarji. This was specially released for the 150th birth anniversary of Swamiji. Let everything be Vivekanandamayam. Let's all get inspiration from Swamiji's life and teachings. Bhuvanamandale navayugamudayatu sada vivekanandamayam suvivekamayam swanandamayam. Bhuvanamandale navayugamudayatu sada vivekanandamayam suvivekamayam swanandamayam. Tamomayam janajeevanamadhuna nishkriyatalasya grastam rajomayamidam kim va bahudha krodhalobhamohavihatam bhakti jnana karma vigyane bhavatu satviko dyotamayam sada vivekanandamayam suvivekamayam swanandamayam. Vahni vayu jala bala vivardhakam panchabhautikam vijnanam salila nidhitalam gaganamandalam karatala phalamiva kurvanam dikshu vikirnam manujakulamidam dikshu vikirnam manujakulamidam ghatayatu chaika kutumbamayam sada vivekanandamayam suvivekamayam swanandamayam. Sagunakaram hyagunakaram ekakaram anekakaram bhajanti ete bhajantu devam विमत्सरम् विश्वधर्ममिममुदारभावं विश्वधर्ममिममुदारभावं प्रवर्धयतु सौहार्दमयं सदा विवेकानन्दमयं सुविवेकमयं स्वानन्दमयं जीवे जीवे शिवस्वरूपं सदा भावयतु सेवायां श्रीमदूर्जितं महामानवं समर्चयतु निजपूजायां चरतु मानवोऽयं सुहितकरं चरतु मानवोऽयं सुहितकरं धर्मं सेवात्यागमयं सदा विवेकानन्दमयं सुविवेकमयं स्वानन्दमयं भुवनमण्डले नवयुगमुदयतु सदा विवेकानन्दमयं सुविवेकमयं स्वानन्दमयं सुविवेकमयं स्वानन्दमयम्
Pranam. My first song is written by Sri Ajodhanath Pakrashi and is composed in Rag Desh. In the year 1881, Thakur Sri Ramakrishna once visited Sri Surendranath Datta's house in Calcutta to attend a musical program with devotional songs. But unfortunately, the scheduled singer did not show up that evening. Running out of options, Sri Datta summoned young Narendranath Datta, which was the previous name of Swami Vivekananda, to sing a few songs in front of Thakur Sri Ramakrishna. Narendranath was already known for his musical talents by then. And that was the first time the two personalities met that evening. Narendranath sang a few devotional songs and Thakur enjoyed Narendranath's singing thoroughly and invited him to Dakshineshwar. The rest is history. The song goes like this. O mind, let us go back once more to our own abode. Here in this foreign land of worldly living, why should we wander aimlessly in strangers' guise?
Oh নামে আছে পান্থধাম, শ্রান্ত হলে তথায় করিবে বিশ্রাম। সাধু সঙ্গ নামে আছে পান্থধাম, শ্রান্ত হলে তথায় করিবে বিশ্রাম। পথভ্রান্ত হলে শুধাইবে পথ সে পান্থ নিবাসী গণে। যদি দেখো পথে ভয়েরই আকার, যদি দেখো পথে ভয়েরই আকার, প্রাণপণে দিও দোহাই রাজার। সে পথে রাজা প্রবল প্রতাপ, সমন ডরে যার শাসনে মন। চলো নিজ নিকেতনে, সংসার বিদেশে বিদেশির বেশে ভ্রম কেন অকারণে মন। চলো নিজ নিকেতনে মন, চলো নিজ নিকেতনে।
My last song is a very special song because it is written and composed by Swamiji himself. In this beautiful song, composed in Rag Bhageshri, Swamiji described different stages of meditation. It describes that in the beginning the world floats like a shadow, where a feeble current of self-consciousness is present, and at the end everything merges with the supreme state that cannot be described in words. The song goes like this: no sun, nor the radiance, neither the beautiful moon. The world floats like a shadow in the consciousness space. নাহি সূর্য নাহি জ্যোতি, নাহি সূর্য নাহি জ্যোতি, নাহি শশাঙ্ক সুন্দর ভাসে বনে ছায়া সম, ভাসে বনে ছায়া সম। ছবি বিশ্ব চরাচর, নাহি সূর্য নাহি জ্যোতি। অস্ফুট মন আকাশে জগৎ সংসার ভাসে। অস্ফুট মন আকাশে জগৎ সংসার ভাসে।
ওঠে ভাসে ডোবে বুনো ওঠে ভাসে ডোবে বুনো অহং স্রোতে নিরন্তর নাহি সূর্য নাহি জ্যোতি ধীরে ধীরে ছায়া দল মহালয়ে প্রবেশিল ধীরে ধীরে ছায়া দল মহালয়ে প্রবেশিল বহে মাত্র আমি আমি সেই ধারা অনুক্ষণ সে ধারাও বদ্ধ হলো শূন্যে শূন্যে মিলাইল সে ধারাও বদ্ধ হলো শূন্যে শূন্যে মিলাইল অবাঙ্গন সবচরণ বোঝে প্রাণ বোঝে যারো নাহি সূর্য নাহি জ্যোতি নাহি শশাঙ্ক সুন্দর ভাসে ভূমি চরাচর ছবি বিশ্ব চরাচর নাহি সূর্য নাহি জ্যোতি
Beautiful, beautiful.
Welcome, Swami Sarvapriyananda ji. We will now hear a speech on Vivekananda's addresses at the Parliament of Religions. Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, head of Vedanta Society of New York. Please welcome Swami ji.
Om Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Surayi Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamini Tapaharini. I offer my pranams to Revered Swami Chetanananda Ji Maharaj, and thanks to the Vedanta Society of St. Louis, to the Indian Association, to the Hindu Temple, the Mahatma Gandhi Cultural Center, and indeed the citizens of this beautiful city of St. Louis for organizing this wonderful event to mark the 125th anniversary of the World Parliament of Religions and Swamiji's appearance there. A lot of thoughts were going through my mind when I heard and speak about Swamiji's impact on the West. For example, Tesla, she mentioned Tesla, again, the scientist, not the car. But Tesla had almost been forgotten, you know, but I should say thanks to Elon Musk and his car, now people are at least taking his name again. But he was there at the World Parliament of Religions. He had a pavilion, and he would shut down his pavilion when it was time for Vivekananda to speak. He would just take that time off, and he would come and stand at the back of the audience and listen to Vivekananda's talk, and then slip back out again, back to his pavilion. Later on in our records, we find in the Vedanta Society of New York, later on when Vivekananda was there and afterwards Swami Avedananda was there, Tesla would come. He would come and listen to talks on Vedanta. He was fascinated. I read a book recently, it's called The Wizard. It's a life of Nikola Tesla, a recent biography, and where it mentions how powerfully he was influenced by the, as the author puts it, the Vedanta monk, Swami Vivekananda. He became a lifelong celibate after speaking with Swami Vivekananda, and he was so impressed by Sankhya cosmology that many, many years later, when he was publishing scientific papers, his publisher would struggle to make him drop terms like, You know, to keep out terms like Akasha and Prana. And how do you tell Tesla not to do something? I mean, he's Tesla after all. And Tesla would insist, no, those terms have to be there in that paper. So many people were influenced. I was reading a book called American Philosophy, A Love Affair. A recent book, a bestseller by a philosopher, John Cant, in Harvard University. So this young man, he talks about his own life, how he fell in love with philosophy by discovering the work and the library of a very popular philosopher, a well-known philosopher in the early 20th century, William Ernst Hocking, who's not so well known now. Now, if you Google William Ernst Hocking and Vivekananda, you will find that in 1893, he was about to join Harvard University. He was a student. He became a student of William James and Josiah Royce and others. But just before that, he had gone to attend the World Parliament of Religions. He writes that he was dissatisfied with the way religion had been taught to him in his local church, and he thought, well, there are other religions in the world, and here are people in this Parliament of Religion who are going to speak about other religions. Let me go and listen. I'll give it 1 hour. I'll give it just 1 hour and see if anything convinces me, if anything touches my heart. So he said, I'll give it only 1 hour. And he writes, and that hour was the hour of Vivekananda. And then he goes on rapturously. This is what I've been looking for in my life. And then he goes to Harvard, where, of course, again, Vivekananda was there with William James and so on. So many people were influenced. Phil Goldberg, who has written this best-selling book, American Veda, which talks about Hinduism and its coming to America and its influence in America. He credits Swami Vivekananda with opening the doors. He said the World Parliament of Religions, Swami Vivekananda comes, talks about Vedanta and Hinduism, and after that, there's so much interest that till today, this wave after wave of gurus and yogis, not just Hinduism, also Buddhism, Sikhism, the different religions from the East coming to the West. Truly, Vivekananda was the bridge between the East and the West. There he has a chapter. The Swamis taught the smart guys and the smart guys taught the rest of us. That's the name of the chapter. So there he talks about Aldous Huxley and, of course, William James to begin with. William James and Hocking and Josiah Royce, but also Aldous Huxley and Christopher Isherwood, whom the Swami has worked with Christopher Isherwood, and many others. The great novelist who was there at the East Side Center, Salinger, and so many others who were influenced by Vedantic thought, starting from Vivekananda, flowing down through the other teachers, down to the present age. It all started in the World Parliament of Religions, when Vivekananda came and spoke to the world, literally, through that podium, on that platform in the World Parliament of Religions. So what did he say there? What are the things which made an impact upon the American psyche and through that throughout the world? In the very first talk which he gave on 11th September 1893, he said that I'm proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world not only toleration, but universal acceptance. We not only tolerate all religions, but we accept the truth, we accept all religions as true. Just last week, I was in New York. I got an invitation from the permanent mission of the United Arab Emirates to the United Nations for an interfaith iftar. You know, for the Muslims, the holy month of Ramadan is going on now. So the fast is broken in the evening and with an iftar feast. So they had this idea of calling representatives of different religions. Now, why I'm saying this is, the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to the United Nations, she spoke, she gave the inaugural talk, and she said, in the UAE, this year we are celebrating it as the year of tolerance, but tolerance has a negative connotation. It's like, I am tolerating you. Really, most people do not know that in the original Arabic, the word tolerance means something closer to the English word acceptance. So we believe not just in tolerance, but in acceptance. And I'm so amazed to hear this, that more than 100 years later, it is the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates who is talking about tolerance, not just tolerance, but acceptance. Then he goes on to say, Vivekananda, that I am proud to belong to a religion which has sheltered I'm proud to belong to a religion and a nation which has sheltered the persecuted of all religions and of all nations. He mentions the Jews. He says how the remnants of the Israelites, they came to India about 2,000 years ago when their temple was destroyed in 70 AD by Roman tyranny. Again, it struck me that last year, in the Indian consulate in New York, we were celebrating Hanukkah in the Indian consulate, organized by the Jews from India who live in New York. They are very few in number, so we had a lot of Jewish people from the general Jewish population in New York. And the Consul General of Israel, he gave a talk in which he said that Jewish people from all over the world, they come and they generally have sad stories to tell about their home countries, except one country. He said, except one country, and that's India. I've never heard any Jewish person from India saying that they're ever being discriminated against or mistreated in India for the last 2,000 years. Swami Vivekananda mentions, we saw some beautiful pictures of the Zoroastrian. They're very small in number. In India, we know them as the Parsis. So Swami Vivekananda also mentioned in this first talk how the Zoroastrians found refuge in India. Today, I'm sure he would have been happy to mention the Tibetan Buddhists, the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan Buddhists who are they're so popular today in the United States, so many centers. Dalai Lama is somebody, generally people know that some kind of a monk. Because I remember I was in a place in Arizona last year, and we were climbing this rock, and there were tourist groups, a group of students who didn't realize perhaps in the mountains sounds carry very far. And the students were talking among each other. When they saw my dress from the distance, they were saying, "Oh look, there's the Dalai Lama."
Delhi.
So the Tibetan Buddhists, but they found their first refuge in India in the 1950s and 60s, and even till today, in Dharmasala, that's where the Dalai Lama is. So Swami Vivekananda mentions that Vedanta, Hinduism, has the spirit of acceptance and giving shelter to different ideologies, religions, nationalities, those who have been persecuted, may be driven out of their own countries. He goes on to quote, which Swami Chaitanyanji quoted, from the Shiva Mahimna Stotra. What is the spirit of Hinduism? What is the main message he wanted to share with the Parliament of World Religions? That he says, this spirit, this prayer that Hindus chant from the Shiva Mahimna Stotra, that, O Lord, people, because of the differing tendencies, they come in different ways to you, but they all reach you, just like different rivers flow into the same ocean. Ruchi nam vaichitryat rijukutilana patajusham Rinameko gamya tvamasi payasam arnavaiva. Shiva Mahimna Stotra. That like different rivers flowing into the ocean, the different religions, they also carry their followers, who are very different from each other, but they all are reaching the same goal. By this, Swami Vivekananda was saying no more than what his master Sri Ramakrishna had said. As many faiths, so many paths to God. Jato mat tato pad. But what Swami Vivekananda was signaling was, this was not a unique teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. This was not a new teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. In fact, this is a very ancient, central teaching of Vedanta. In our Vedanta societies, we usually have this The truth is one, the wise speak of it differently. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. Going all the way back to the Rig Veda, 5,000 years. So, in different ways, this idea that the different religions of the world are all true, that there are different paths to spiritual enlightenment, and the different religions are different paths. It's not that one is right and the other is wrong. All are true and all are very precious because they are all God's gift to us. He went on to strike a rather somber note. He said that long have bigotry and sectarianism and their horrible descendant fanaticism, and today you would have added terrorism. They have drenched the world in blood, in warfare, in hatred. He said that human civilization would have been further along if not for these negativities. Just, I think it was day before yesterday, yes, at the World, in New York, the World Tower, the World Trade Center, yes, the Freedom Tower. So I was there, we had a Swami visiting from Fiji, so we had taken, I'd never been there, but we took this opportunity to visit. And I was seeing the place where they have a memorial, the 9/11 memorial. And it's very profound, very heartbreaking. But where these buildings were there is a huge pit now. It's the footprint of the original Twin Towers. And there is water all the time flowing. It's beautifully designed, very meditative, very deep. And I was thinking, exactly on the same day, how amazing, 9/11. In 1893, on 11th September, Swami Vivekananda said these words. And again, what happened at the beginning of the 21st century, in our so-called enlightened times, 11th September. So, these were the key points which Swami Vivekananda presented before the World Parliament of Religions very effectively, very powerfully, and left its mark on the Parliament. In fact, afterwards, we heard how he spoke for 14 times. The organizers would keep his talk at the end. You know, they would announce first, Vivekananda is going to speak. And people would sit and wait. And they would keep his talk for the last. So that when people are getting up, they would announce that Vivekananda is going to speak. And they would rush back and sit down. And wait till the hall, part of the hall is still there. If you go to the Chicago Art Institute, the hall it's usually locked. But if you ask to see it, they'll open it. And there's a plaque where it says Swami Vivekananda came and spoke here on September 11th, 1893. The next talk, I think on 15th September, another talk he gave at the World Parliament of Religions. He told this very nice story, which has become a classic, about religious narrowness. He said that there was this frog which lived in a well, and it thought the world of its well. And one day a frog which lived in the ocean fell into the well, and this frog said, "Hello, where have you come from?" "I've come from the sea or from the ocean." "How big is the ocean?" "Is it as big as my well?" And Swami Vivekananda actually was a very good storyteller. He said that the frog jumped from one end of the well and said, "Is it as big as this?" And the other frog said, "You really don't know what you're talking about, do you?" "The ocean, you cannot even compare. It's so much bigger than your well." And this other frog got so furious, he jumped back on the other side and said, "You are a liar. Nothing can be bigger than this well." And he tossed him, "Get out from here," and he tossed him out of the well. And then Vivekananda said, this is religious narrowness. The Hindu in his own little well, and the Christian in his own little well, and the Muslim in his own little well, we think that is all that there is to religion. So he pleaded for this openness. Now I think, 100 years later, the religions of the world, we have a different scenario now. Because of this openness, you know, today, the largest and growing section among the youth are who describe themselves as the nuns, not the NUN nun, the NONE nun. I do not belong to any organized religion, Christianity, Hinduism. Young people, when they are asked in a survey, which religion do you belong to? They would usually take none. Now, it does not mean they're not interested in spiritual life. They are interested. There is a genuine interest in spirituality, but there's these things which put them off. Basically, what puts off the younger generation from spirituality is, first of all, that religions fight among each other. They organize and then they criticize each other and fight among each other. This is one thing which is very discouraging for young people when they come to religion. The other thing is that religions seem to go against science. Certain religious beliefs are no longer supportable. The latest discoveries of science are clearly against that. And yet religious preachers, they're afraid that if we let go of these beliefs, what about the others? Because they're all beliefs. If I let go of one, where is the guarantee that the others also won't be lost? And so they tend to stick fanatically to things which are not supportable by science. But that does not appeal to the modern young mind. And one more thing. There are values, certain values in modern society. Gender equality and, the human rights, certain amount of things are related to human dignity, which we are talking about today, which we did not talk about 100 years ago, and religions seem to have been left far behind. They seem to be taking a retrograde or sort of obstructionist role. So that also puts up young people. And Swami Vivekananda, more than 100 years ago, he pointed towards this, that how religion must be dynamic and change if it is to adapt to the times which are coming. He pointed out that there are many people in this society, American society, who can no longer, they are rational, scientific, and they find it very difficult to believe in the way religion is taught. And they're afraid of society. So they come to me and admit it, that we really cannot believe in what is being taught there, but we're afraid to admit it openly. Well, that time has gone now. People are not afraid to admit it openly, so they openly declare that I am none. And yet there is interest in spirituality. There was a big paper on Hinduism which he presented, which I shall skip over because basically there is the thrust of his entire teaching of Vedanta. You can see the roots there. But I shall stick to this theme about interfaith. On 26th September, he presented a paper on Buddhism. Very interesting, representative of Hinduism. And he gave very interesting ideas about Buddhism, which I think have been ignored till now, which need to be discussed more seriously. There, in that paper on Buddhism, he said, as many of you have heard, I am not a Buddhist. Many people in those days in America did not know the difference between Hinduism and Buddhism. Some would come, they didn't know how to pronounce it, so some would come and ask him, are you a Buddhist? And he would say, no ma'am, I'm a florist. And because his approach was so all-inclusive, he did speak about the Buddha, he did speak about Buddhism, but he had a unique angle to it, which has really not been explored. You know what he said in that talk? He said, you have heard that I'm not a Buddhist, and you may have heard that I'm going to criticize Buddhism, but far from it. What I'm going to tell you now is that Buddhism, the name of the paper is Buddhism, the Fulfillment of Hinduism. He says, compare it with Christianity and Judaism. And he says the similarities and dissimilarities. Buddha came out of Hinduism, the old Vedic Hinduism, the way Jesus emerged out of the religion of the Old Testament, out of the Jewish religion. But he says the difference is this. He says in the case of Jesus, it was his people, the older people, the Jewish people, who rejected the idea that he was any kind of Messiah or anything special. In fact, I'm reminded of a silly joke where there's this a rabbi speaking to a Catholic priest, and he says, in your church you have this hierarchy. Yes. How high can you go in your hierarchy? And he says, well, if you're really, really good, you can become the bishop or the cardinal, and any higher, become the cardinal next, any higher, and then maybe you can get a deputation and go to Rome. Can you go any higher? Well, one of the few archbishops or something will become the pope. Any higher? What's higher than the pope? I guess there's only God, you can't become that. And the rabbi said, well, one of our young men did that, he became, or you, he's Jesus. But Jewish religion rejected that. Whereas, he says, the old religion in India, the Hindus, accepted the Buddha as not only as a great spiritual teacher, but eventually as one of the avatars, incarnations of Vishnu. So that's how Buddha is worshipped actually by Hindus. But what happened was, he says, it is the Vivekananda's, this is Vivekananda's position, very interesting. He says, it is the followers of the Buddha who seem to have misunderstood the master's message. How have they misunderstood if they have at all misunderstood? Vivekananda said, the Buddha did not actually teach anything new. The old Hindu religion had two broad streams. One, a stream of ritualism, the karma kanda. And there was, for a limited section, not so well known, the Jnana Kanda, the religion of the Upanishads, what is today called the Vedanta. And he says, the Buddha taught nothing other than the way of knowledge. And the way it was presented later on by the later schools of Buddhism made a big difference between Hinduism and Buddhism. And then he goes on to show how Hinduism slowly disappeared, by how Buddhism slowly disappeared from India. But this point is very interesting, because Vivekananda says this consistently throughout. Not only in the first paper in the World Parliament, but all throughout his teachings till the very end of his life, he kept on insisting that the essential teachings of Vedanta, especially Advaita Vedanta, and the essential teachings of Buddhism are one and the same. Now, why is this interesting? Because it does not seem to be so. If you look at the teachings of Buddhism and the way it is presented, the way we have understood Buddhism for 2,500 years, the Buddhists say that there is no permanent self called the Atman. It seems to be the exact opposite of what the Hindus call the Atman, an eternal reality beyond the changing body and mind. The Buddhists further go on to either ignore or outright deny the existence of God, which is, of course, all theistic Hindus believe in, Ishvara, Bhagavan, Saguna Brahman. So the two most precious things, and of course the authority of the Vedas, which the Buddha rejected. But the two most precious ideas, Atman and Brahman, Buddhists seem to deny this. So, but Vivekananda says, no, both were actually, the core ideas are the same. It's only in recent times that there have been philosophers, like Dr. Radhakrishnan, for example. There have been a number of philosophers who are saying the same thing, what Vivekananda said more than 100 years ago. What Vivekananda pointed out much later in one of his talks was, see, it is only when you come to Advaita Vedanta that the ultimate reality, the way it is presented, is exactly the same if you look at how Shunyavada, Madhyamika Buddhism of Nagarjuna, presents the idea of Shunya. Swami Saradanandaji, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, he writes in his book, The Great Master, Sri Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga, what they call the Shunyam, we call the Purnam. The same reality, because it is beyond language and beyond conception. When you try to bring it within language and within conception, you can give both of these terms to it. I really liked it when Swami Chetananji yesterday told me that his teacher, when he was a novice in our main monastery in India, his teacher, Swami Bodhatmanandaji Bhava Maharaj, told him this little story. Do you know what it's like? Shankara, imagine Shankara and Buddha, both of them going out in the same boat into the ocean. And Buddha looks up and says, void, void, into the sky. It is all void, shunyam, shunyam, sarvam, shunyam. And Shankara is looking down into the ocean and he says, Purnam, Purnam, sarvam, Purnam. What a very beautiful anecdote. I mean, it just points to the same phenomenon. It's not the phenomenon, it's the noumenon actually. But it can be described from these two angles. And more work is being done. T.R.B. Murthy, the central philosophy of Buddhism, he shows how the Buddhism of Madhyamaka Buddhism, Shunyavada of Nagarjuna, is very similar to the Advaita Vedanta of Shankara, especially the Advaita Vedanta of Gaudapada. The last speech which Swami Vivekananda gave on the 25th of September, 1893, at the World Parliament of Religions. There he touched upon a rather touchy subject, the subject of conversion. People asked, why are you here? Are you here to convert Christians into Hindus? So he directly responded to that. He said, Do I wish that the Christian would become a Hindu or a Buddhist? God forbid. These are his exact words. Do I wish that the Hindu or the Buddhist would become a Christian? God forbid. What I wish is that each would learn and accept and assimilate the teachings of the other, the best features of the other, while remaining steadfast to his or her own ideals. Grow according to the law of your own growth. In another lecture later on he says, it's like a plant which gathers in air and nutrients and water from the environment, but grows according to its own nature. In the same way, we must assimilate all that is best from other traditions and incorporate it into our tradition and then grow in our own tradition. See, this is just the opposite of the conversion mentality. The conversion mentality is that my religion is right, yours is wrong, and you should come to my religion. So this is one kind of approach. Swami Vivekananda's approach is just the opposite. Of course, it's the same approach of Sri Ramakrishna, and it is, broadly speaking, it is the Hindu approach. For Hindus, I remember in our main monastery in India, on the bank of the Ganga, the Belur Math, I have seen these simple women, they are coming for worshipping the sun, the Chhat Puja, which is done by people in North India. So they come to the river early in the morning, sunrise, and then they offer worship. So they are all Hindu women coming in with their families, and they pass just outside the monastery. There is a mosque, and when they pass that mosque, unconsciously, I mean, it sort of reflects. They do this. They do this like this. For them, it's God in another form. They cannot think that this is false and that's right. This kind of equation just doesn't work in the Indian mind. Now, that's what I used to think also. But now I realize that after seeing more of the word, the importance of Vivekananda's message in the World Parliament of Religions. It would be good if Vivekananda's message of the harmony of religions had become irrelevant, that we all are in harmony now, 100 years later. That would have been good. But it's not so. Unfortunately, his message is even more relevant today. As the world shrinks and becomes smaller because of modern technologies, we are irrevocably slammed against each other. And when we come in with our differences, with our unexamined belief systems, and we see the other, how do you react? Do you react by saying that is false, mine is right, and I've got to do something about it, problem? Or do you react by saying, that's interesting, I worship or I'm spiritual in this way, and those people are spiritual and they worship in that way, let me learn from them. Vivekananda, when Vivekananda says, I can go to a mosque and worship with a Muslim, I can go to a church and worship with a Christian, it's a spirit that just for any Hindu, it is absolutely no problem really. But this is something that needs to be shared with the world today. You're speaking about the World Parliament of Religions. A rabbi, Alon Goshen Goldstein from Jerusalem, he was visiting, he's associated with the World Parliament of Religions, he was visiting our monastery in India, and I was asked to show him around. And I asked this question about the Parliament of Religions. He was saying that, you know, in India you hear so much, especially in the Ramakrishna Mission, you hear so much about the harmony of religions, how all religions can get along together. But when you come to India, where are the structures? I don't see what he meant by the structures was, I don't see the dialogue, I don't see the papers being published, I don't see the meetings. And I smiled and I said, you don't see them because we don't need them. It's not really necessary. The work has been done thousands of years ago when they said, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, the truth is one, but the wise speak of it differently. Not only was it limited to philosophers and scholars and Vedic Pandits, but an amazing thing happened. It filtered down throughout society, down to the smallest village where the most unlettered person also knows that here they worship Shiva, there they worship Vishnu, and there the Muslims have a mosque. And basically, it's all right, because they are different forms of the same divine. Now, that person does not require a parliament of world religions. That person does not require seminars and workshops and paper publications and citations to tell him that. He knows it. Then I asked him a counter question. that whatever the World Parliament of Religion, what you believe in, what you're trying to promote, I accept all of it and more than what you are saying, as a Hindu and as a monk. So what do I have to gain by participating there? What new thing can you tell me? And the rabbi said something very interesting. He said something very helpful. He said, all the more reasons why you and other Hindus should participate in these interfaith programs, in these World Parliament religions. This is what you have to share. This is what you have to bring to the world stage. Robert Wright, who is a Darwinian, he lives in Princeton, he has written books like The Moral Animal and so on, Evolution of God, who is a declared atheist. Now in his book, The Evolution of God, at the very end he says, and the book is about the Abrahamic religions, about Judaism, Christianity and Islam and the internal conflict, how they developed. So he does not talk about the Eastern religions. At the end he says, what are the hopes for peace between these religions? And he says, there is only one formula which I know, which can bring about peace between the religions of the world. It's an ancient Indian formula called, the truth is one, the sages speak of it differently. Ekam satyam prabahuda vadanti. In ancient India, in spite of such a variety of views, it was able to bring peace. There was a lot of warfare in India, but it was not religious warfare. Imagine, a country, a nation which is for thousands of years has been so much interested in religion, yet not fighting about religion. How is that possible? He says, successfully shown for 5,000 years. He says, if this formula can be adopted, if this path we can take up, then there is chance for peace among the religions of the world. Swami Vivekananda's addresses at the World Parliament of Religion continue to be even more relevant today, in our world today. My prayer is to Swami Vivekananda, to the great masters of the different religions, that may they inspire us in their universal outlook, may we imbibe from them the vastness of their outlook. You know, there's a new term which has come. It's called cosmopolitanism. There are different professors like Jonathan Galleri in the New York University. They're trying to promote this term, religious cosmopolitanism. What is cosmopolitanism? Till now, the ideal has been in interfaith pluralism. Different religions are there. We should respect them, stick to your religion, respect the other religion, and accept it as true, and so on. And people were saying that this is the big view of Ramakrishna Vivekananda, but something struck me as a little off. Even in the World Parliament of Religions, he's not just saying that we accept all religions as true. He's also saying, assimilate, learn from other religions. Assimilate the spirit of other religions, remaining steadfast to your own ideas. A new term has come, cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan in a big city, say like New York or big cities of the world. It's not just that you respect each other, but you learn from each other. You influence each other. A cosmopolitan person is not just a pluralistic person. It's a person who has imbibed cultures, who has imbibed the food and the music and the ideology of different faiths, different systems of thought, different cultures of the world, different nationalities. That's called cosmopolitanism. And that, I felt, is a better term to apply to Vivekananda or Sri Ramakrishna, or indeed to Hinduism in general. It's the world's maybe the first cosmopolitan religion of the world. So this cosmopolitan spirit, I pray that this will spread and overcome all narrowness and bigotry, and what Vivekananda prayed for on 11 September 1893, that comes true. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sing high that note, sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om Tat Sat. Sat Om. And never yield sannyas and bold say Om. Tat Sat Om. Tat Sat Om. There is but one, the self, the free. Without a name, and him is Maya, dreaming all this dream. He appears as nature and soul. Know you are that sannyas and bold. Sing high that note, sannyas and bold, say oh. Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om. And never yield sannyas and bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om. Strike off your chains, bonds that bind you down, of shining gold or darker baser ore. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth. He conquers all who conquer self. Sing high that note, sannyas and bold, say oh. Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om. And never yield sannyas and bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om. Sing high that note, sannyas and bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om. And never yield sannyas and bold, say Om. Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om, Tat Sat Om.
Our pranam to Guruji and all the distinguished guests here. And this is our humble prayer to Swamiji. The first one, I'm going to sing the song. It's called the Dudu Rut Shagore Amanma. And Shri Krishna Paramahamsa, he really liked this song. So we're going to attempt to sing this song. item. I'm going to sing a bhajan based on Rag Bhairavi, which is a Sadasuhagan Rag. The song is about Devi Ma.
नाखन में नथ
I hope you enjoyed the videos and the diversity of our Vivekananda Festival this year. In these difficult times, we particularly need Vivekananda's optimistic message of hope and strength. Quote, "He who always thinks himself as weak will never become strong, but he who knows himself to be a lion rushes out from the world's meshes as a lion from its cage," end quote. Throw away all weakness. Tell your body that it is strong. Tell your mind that it is strong, and have unbounded faith and hope in yourself. May we all work toward our way through such unbounded faith and hope. A week from Sunday, on July 12th, Swami Chaitananda will not give a lecture, but will host a question and answer Zoom meeting with the topic on Guru. To participate, you will need to complete registration through an email provided link, which will be sent on Thursday. If you're not sure you're on our email list, send us an email to join@VedantaSTL.org. That's join@VedantaSTL.org with your full name and brief information about your Vedanta connection, and we will make sure that you get the registration. Thank you all for watching. We wish you all a safe 4th of July.